Host to the Stars, and the star was Enos Slaughter, who helped to defeat the American League with a great catch off Harvey Keene. But perhaps the most memorable play in recent All-Star history came in Cincinnati's Riverfront Stadium in 1970 when Pete Rose separated Ray Fosse from the ball to give the National League a victory. Now, 18 years later, Riverfront Stadium is again the site of the All-Star Game. The stadium, a sparkling jewel, nestled between the Ohio riverbank and downtown Cincinnati. Yesterday, the Stars gathered at the stadium, and informality was the order of the day. There was Banks from yesteryear, and Herzog, and Dawson from today, and nameplates for the new stars. And what's a star without a director's chair? And old friendships revived despite new uniforms. And the Stars themselves making like fans. Sign here, please, asked Kirby. And would you guys mind saying cheese? Scenes you'll see only at the All-Star Game. Cincinnati celebrating its bicentennial. Riverfront Stadium is filling up. The pregame festivities have started. We'll join them shortly as we welcome you to the 59th Major League Baseball All-Star Game. Hello again, everyone. I'm Al Michaels, and this All-Star Game, like everyone, reflects in many ways the baseball season, as the season right now is at its halfway mark. It's been a season of stability and continuity in ways, and that's why when we look at the lineups tonight, I guess it's comforting for a lot of people to see the names like Dave Winfield and Gary Carter once more in All-Star Game starting lineups. It's been also a season of transition, where, for instance, tonight is Dale Murphy, and where is Fernando Valenzuela? Where is Tim Raines? They're not here. And how in the world do you play an All-Star Game without Mike Schmidt? But he's not here. The baton has been passed. Bobby Bonilla will start at third. Welcome, Bobby. You're liable to be there for a while. Like all seasons, it's been one of surprises, too. Doug Jones has spent a lifetime riding the buses in the minor leagues. He knows what the waiver list looks like, and yet he's here as a member of the Cleveland Indians. And Chris Sabo goes to spring training looking for a job, winds up as the red third baseman, and he'll play the All-Star Game tonight in front of his hometown fans. As far as first-time All-Stars are concerned, let's go back to 1966, Busch Stadium in St. Louis, and the Cardinals were fleet even then, because as Maury Wills singled to right, steaming around third came Tim McCarver, the fleet-footed catcher, as the National League won it 2-1. And now live here is Tim McCarver in 1988. As you look back 22 years ago, what do you remember most about that day, Tim?
Well, I think the unbridled enthusiasm. As a matter of fact, that same wide-eyed enthusiasm is so evident here in Cincinnati. You go in both locker rooms, and the guys, it's just unbelievable. It's like people opening their packages on Christmas morning. And no wonder, 30 of the players are here for the first time, 18 in the National League and 12 in the American League. One story, Chris Sabo, the only rookie on either side, wants 5 items signed: 2 bats, 2 gloves, and 1 ball. But I think once the glitz and glitter is over and the games begin, the competitive juices start flowing.
Oh, absolutely, and nobody wants to be embarrassed in front of 50 or 60 million people. A first-time All-Star in 1970 was a right-hander with the Baltimore Orioles who made his All-Star debut in this stadium. And he struck out Willie Mays. Jim Palmer of the Baltimore Orioles, though the National League that night prevailed 5-4. Jim, what do you remember about the 70 All-Star game?
I think my first 2 emotions, number one, jubilation because Earl Weaver named me to the ball club, and then fear because when I opened my Christmas package, I saw Willie Mays leaving off, Dick Allen batting second, Hank Aaron followed by Tony Perez, then a guy by the name of Rico Carty who 366, followed by Johnny Bench. But tonight, the 2 pitchers involved as the starters, Frank Viola, 14-2, most valuable player in the American League last year, and Dwight Gooden for the National League. He's been in 4 All-Star games, 2 starts, can be as good as anybody. I don't think fear is going to enter into their minds tonight.
And pitching has been very much the dominant factor and feature of recent All-Star games. A good many of them have been low scoring. The pregame festivities going on. Disney World salutes baseball. Back with that from Cincinnati after this.
entire cast of the Disney World Series welcomes you to the 1988 All-Star Game.
Hi, everybody. Boy, it sure is great to be here. What a terrific day for baseball.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and cracker jacks. I don't care if I never get back. So it's root, root, root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the all game. Wow!
And now, to honor this great country, we proudly present our Star-Spangled Salute to America. We salute you, America!
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the American League trainers, coaches, and non-starters. The trainers. From the Milwaukee Brewers, John Adam. And from the Boston Red Sox, Charlie Moss. In the American League bullpen, from the Minnesota Twins, Rick Stelmazik. Dick Such. Batting practice coaches, also from the Minnesota Twins, Rick Rennick. Wayne Terwilliger. The American League coaches from the Milwaukee Brewers, Tom Trebelhorn. And from the Texas Rangers, Bobby Valentine. Now the American League non-starters. From the Boston Red Sox, pitcher Roger Clemens. Outfielder Mike Greenwell. From the California Angels, infielder Johnny Ray. From the Chicago White Sox, injured and unable to play in tonight's game, shortstop Ozzie Guillen. From the Cleveland Indians, pitcher Doug Jones. From the Detroit Tigers, he was elected by fans to start tonight's game, but is unable to play because of an injury, shortstop Alan Trammell. Also from the Tigers, pitcher Doyle Alexander. From the Kansas City Royals, shortstop Kurt Stillwell. First baseman George Brett. Pitcher Mark Gubicza. From the Milwaukee Brewers, pitcher Dan Plesac. From the Minnesota Twins, third baseman Gary Gaetti. Catcher Tim Laudner. Outfielder Kirby Puckett. Pitcher Jeff Reardon. From the New York Yankees, first baseman Don Mattingly. From the Oakland Athletics, third baseman Carney Lansford. Pitcher Dennis Eckersley. From the Seattle Mariners, second baseman Harold Reynolds. From the Texas Rangers, pitcher Jeff Russell. And from the Toronto Blue Jays, pitcher Dave Stieb. And now the American League starters. Managing his first All-Star game from the world champion Minnesota Twins, Tom Kelly. Leading off, the all-time stolen base leader in New York Yankee history, number 24, center fielder Rickey Henderson. Batting second, his 39-game hitting streak last year was the 5th longest in Major League history. From the Milwaukee Brewers, number 4, second baseman Paul Molitor. Batting third, the only player in the last 50 years to collect 200 or more hits in 5 consecutive seasons. From the Boston Red Sox, number 26, third baseman Wade Boggs. Batting fourth, the only Oakland Athletics player to have consecutive 100 RBI seasons, number 33, left fielder Jose Canseco. Batting fifth and making his 12th consecutive All-Star appearance, a 7-time Gold Glove winner from the New York Yankees, number 31, right fielder Dave Winfield. Batting sixth, making his 5th consecutive start for the American League, from the Baltimore Orioles, number 8, shortstop Cal Ripken. Batting seventh, last year's American League Rookie of the Year and home run champion from the Oakland Athletics, number 25, first baseman Mark McGwire. Batting eighth, the only Oakland catcher to be elected by fans to start in an All-Star game, number 36, Terry Steinbach. And in the bullpen, warming up, batting ninth, the 1987 World Series MVP from the Minnesota Twins, number 16, Frank Viola. And now let's meet the National League trainers, coaches, and non-starters. Trainers from the New York Mets, Steve Garland. And from the Cincinnati Reds, Larry Starr. The batting practice coaches from the St. Louis Cardinals, Rich Hacker, Johnny Lewis, Nick Leyva. The National League coaches from the San Francisco Giants, Roger Craig. And from the Montreal Expos, Buck Rogers. Now the National League non-starters. From the Atlanta Braves, first baseman Gerald Perry. From the Chicago Cubs, third baseman Vance Law. Shortstop Sean Dunston. Outfielder Rafael Palmeiro. Pitcher Greg Maddux. From the Cincinnati Reds, shortstop Barry Larkin. Third baseman Chris Sabo. Pitcher Danny Jackson. From the Houston Astros, pitcher Bob Nepper. From the Los Angeles Dodgers, pitcher Oral Hershiser. From the Montreal Expos, first baseman Andres Galarraga. From the New York Mets, pitcher David Cone. From the Philadelphia Phillies, catcher Lance Parrish. Pitcher Kevin Gross. From the Pittsburgh Pirates, pitcher Bob Walk. Outfielder Andy Van Slyke. From the St. Louis Cardinals, pitcher Todd Worrell. Outfielder Willie McGee. And from the San Diego Padres, pitcher Mark Davis. And now the National League starters. Managing his third All-Star game from the St. Louis Cardinals, number 24, Whitey Herzog. Leading off for the National League, a three-time National League base-stealing champion from the St. Louis Cardinals, number 29, left fielder Vince Coleman. Batting second, winner of 5 consecutive Gold Glove Awards from the Chicago Cubs, number 23, second baseman Ryne Sandberg. Batting third, the National League's 1987 Most Valuable Player from the Chicago Cubs, number 8, center fielder Andre Dawson. Batting fourth, the National League's leading home run hitter with 21 so far this season from the New York Mets, number 18, right fielder Darryl Strawberry. Batting fifth, the National League's Player of the Month for both April and May this year from the Pittsburgh Pirates, number 25, third baseman Bobby Bonilla. Batting sixth, the National League leader in RBIs with 68 this season from the San Francisco Giants, number 22, Will Clark. Batting seventh, twice voted the All-Star Game's most valuable player in 1981 and 84 from the New York Mets, number 8, catcher Gary Carter. Batting eighth, the top vote getter in the fan balloting for the second straight year from the St. Louis Cardinals, number 1, shortstop Ozzie Smith. In the bullpen, warming up, batting ninth, the National League's 1985 Rookie of the Year and 1986 Cy Young Award winner from the New York Mets, number 16, pitcher Dwight Gooden. Now to introduce tonight's honorary captains. Representing the American League an 8-time All-Star whose uniform number 1 was retired earlier this year by the Boston Red Sox, with whom he played for 14 seasons. The man Ted Williams called the silent captain of the Red Sox. He was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1986. He compiled a lifetime batting average of .288 and drove in 100 runs in a season 6 times. Introducing the American League honorary captain, Bobby Doerr. Now for the National League. In 21 seasons with the Pittsburgh Pirates, he batted .282 with a club record 475 home runs. A 7-time All-Star, he was named the National League Co-MVP, the League Championship Series MVP, and the World Series MVP in 1979. He was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame last January and will be inducted July 31st in ceremonies at Cooperstown, New York. Introducing the National League honorary captain.
Now Michael's back in Cincinnati, and now on to the game. The 4th time it's been played in the Queen City of the West. The National League has won the prior 3, and of course they've dominated in recent years, winning 22 of the last 25. From time to time tonight, we'll have interviews with the players, with Gary Bender and with Joe Morgan. Earlier, they talked with the top vote getters. First, Gary.
With me, the top vote getter in the American League squad, Jose Canseco of the Oakland Athletics. Jose, a 2nd time on the squad, but as a rookie you didn't play, but tonight a starting job.
Yeah, I think tonight basically is going to be the most exciting All-Star game. I mean, if I am in the future, basically because I did lead the American League in votes, and you know, I'm going to get a starting job today and hopefully get a couple at bats and thrill some people down in Miami.
Jose, there's been a lot of talk about you could become the first in Major League history to achieve the 40-40, 40 home runs and 40 stolen bases.
This year I'm basically halfway. I do have the 24 home runs and 23 stolen bases, and I think with my ability this year, if I just stay healthy, stay consistent, I think I can achieve it this year.
Good luck today.
Thank you.
Let's go now to a guy who was a 10-time All-Star. Here's Joe Morgan.
Thank you, Gary. I'm here with Ozzie Smith, the leading vote getter for this year's All-Star team. Ozzie, you've been the leading vote getter from the fans the last 2 years, but do you feel that the fans voting should be the last word on who starts the All-Star team?
Well, Joe, I think that when you have the managers and the players or coaches vote, you're going to get a marked difference in who starts and who doesn't. But it's the one way that I think that fans can have a say. The majority of fans can have a say in who they see during the All-Star break. And if we take that away from them, then I think we take away from their participation in the game. And this is really a fans' game, and they choose who they want to see. So here we are.
I agree with you, Ozzie. Thank you. And back to the booth with you, Al.
All right, thank you, Joe. And as we mentioned, the National League has been recently dominant, and series-wise, that's the way it stands. 37-20-1. The start when we come back. Time zone, so still some natural light, but there it is, that sparkling jewel, Riverfront Stadium, which opened in 1970. It had been opened 2 weeks prior to the 1970 All-Star game. And just moments ago, the ceremonial first pitch, and in town to toss it, the Vice President of the United States, George Bush, the old left-hander. And the Yaley throwing one into the mid of Gary Carter. The lineup again for the American League, with Ricky Henderson leading off, and then Paul Molitor at second. Wade Boggs bats third. Jose Canseco is the cleanup hitter. Dave Winfield in right. Ripken replacing the injured Trammell as the starting shortstop. Mark McGuire at first. Terry Steinbach bats eighth. And Frank Viola, who might get a chance to hit tonight. And the last time Frank hit would have been back at the World Series against the St. Louis Cardinals. And Dwight Gooden goes to the mound. It's the second time he has started an All-Star game. He started in Houston in 1986. The inside pitch on Gooden from the Giants, Will Clark.
Dwight Gooden throws a hard fastball, usually in the 95-mile-an-hour range. He has a big sweeping curveball that, if he has control of, he's tough to beat. He also has a changeup, but he doesn't throw it much. The only time he throws it is to left-handers. The key to Dwight is he going to have control of his curveball, and if he does, he's tough to beat.
So Clark talking about Gooden as you look at the American League bench, and as Tim mentioned, more than half of the 56 on both rosters playing in an all-star game for the first time. And a look into the National League dugout, Oral Hershiser and Bob Nepper and Danny Jackson. And defensively, it's Vince Coleman in left. Now, Andre Dawson and Darryl Strawberry are both right fielders, but Dawson moves over for the all-star game to center. The infield, Bonilla at third, Ozzie at short, Sandberg is the second baseman, and the Giants' Clark is at first. Gary Carter does the catching, and he may catch for a while tonight because Lance Parrish's backup has been bothered by a bad back, so we could see Carter in for most, if not all, of the game. And so the all-star game ready to begin, and it begins in a funny way with Ricky Henderson leading off against Dwight Gooden, both their teams in pennant races, and if indeed there's a Subway Series between the Mets and the Yankees, this is the way the first game of the World Series could begin. Gooden to Henderson, missing outside, ball one, 1-0. Ricky's been bothered by injuries of late, but still stealing bases at a clip which would net him around 80 for the season. He has 42 at the break. 2 balls and no strikes. And Gooden behind now, 3-0.
Well, a walk's a double. And when you think of Ricky Henderson, I think of the 130 stolen bases back in 1982. You get a lot of good pitches to hit once you fall behind Henderson as a pitcher, because you don't want to walk him.
3-1 the count on Ricky, who leads off, and Henderson is on. So Ricky Henderson with 42 steals despite the gimpy leg, and he's missed a lot of time, is at first base. And Whitey Herzog, who knows all about speed, will now watch Gooden, who has trouble holding runners on, face Molitor with Henderson at first base.
Tim, you may know the exact numbers, but 2 weeks ago, I think it was like 23 out of 26 stolen base attempts with Gooden and Carter catching and pitching.
And the New York Mets lead the major leagues in stolen bases against them. Right around 120 now against the Carter catching, or Mackey Sasser catching, Barry Lyons, and the pitching staff of the Mets.
Molitor takes a strike and the count 0-1. On the other side of the coin, the success against the Mets is the fact that Henderson is really taking a look at Gooden, not for the first time necessarily, but he really doesn't know Dwight. He doesn't see that much of him. And Gooden drives him back.
That's one of the big reasons that pitchers in all-star games usually have the advantage, because hitters haven't seen the pitchers enough to really know what kind of style they have, not only their move, but how they deliver the ball to the plate.
There he goes. He gets a huge jump, and it's a chopper foul outside third. He had second stolen easily and maybe third with that break.
Well, you consider the curveball as the pitch, which gives you a little bit more time, and you look at an excellent jump by Henderson. The one thing that Gooden allows base runners to do is get a good jump because of the high leg kick. Most pitchers in both the American and National League, as you look at Ricky coast into second knowing that he would have stolen the base if Molitor had not fouled it off, most pitchers have gone with that slide step to try to get the ball to catcher a little bit quicker to give him an opportunity to throw out the runners.
No balls, 2 strikes, and this time he stays, and it's grounded right down to Clark. He goes to Smith, 1, back to Clark, double play. So after going on the previous pitch, he stays put, and the National League turns a 3-6-3 double play.
The National League with an abundance of excellent fielding first basemen. Will Clark, Andres Galarraga, a member of the National League squad, Keith Hernandez, of course. They're making the 3-6-3 double play a rather routine way of getting 2.
Wade Boggs takes a strike, and that's anything but routine when you turn a 3-6-3 with Henderson running and Molitor hitting. Wade Boggs of the Red Sox, 4 batting titles under his belt, and maybe a 5th in there. And the count is 0-2. He's tops in the majors right now at 355, and his lifetime average when this season began was 354. And Gooden's 0-2 pitch is outside, 1-2. For Boggs, it's been a tremendous accomplishment with what's been going on off the field. The palimony suit filed against him has gotten tremendous publicity. And yet here he is leading the league in hitting and whacking one into left field for a base hit. So Boggs is on with a 2-out single, Wade at first base, and we'll bring up Jose Canseco.
The key to getting a ball by Ozzie Smith is to hit the ball hard. And you're seeing reaction of Ozzie about as quick as they come. He makes the dive, or at least the attempted dive and stab, and the ball is hit on the nose into left field for a base hit.
Now Canseco with 24 homers. And Gary Bender before the game talking about the possibility of joining the 40-40 club. He'd be the first ever with 40 homers and 40 steals. 0-1 to count. Boggs at first with 2 down. And Canseco takes outside. So Canseco having a real good season. His partner in crime last year, Mark McGwire, is in the lineup, but McGwire really in the lineup based on last year's numbers more than anything else. Canseco is deservedly here as the cleanup hitter. Missing away in the count 1-2-1.
Jose talked about 50-50. Somebody said that's real tough to do. He said, okay, I'll settle for 40-40. He said it's very unusual for large people to run as fast as he does, especially Latin players.
The 2-1 is in the dirt, and the count now 3 balls and 1 strike. With Boggs at first base and 2 out in the first inning. All-Star game just underway at Cincinnati.
And Al, he's made himself such a better outfielder. It seems that he is much more mature, much more conscious at the plate of not trying to different stances. Last year it seemed like he had 101 different stances, one for every occasion.
It looks like he's more closed now than he was in the first 2 years when he came up. Rookie of the year in '86.
Chased it, and the count 3-2.
Of course, we saw the inside pitch from Will Clark, and what he talked about was the 95-mile-per-hour fastball, but what he failed to say is you have to lay off the high fastball to be successful against Dwight Gooden. You see it well, but very difficult to hit. Great movement up in that zone.
Boggs goes on the 3-2 pitch, and it's popped in the air to right field. Strawberry is there, and the American League gone in the first. At the end of the half, the American League nothing, and the National League coming up. National League lineup, Vince Coleman leading off, Ryan Sandberg hitting second, and then Andre Dawson hits third, Strawberry the cleanup batter, Bonilla hitting fifth, Will Clark sixth, Gary Carter in the 7th spot, Ozzie Smith 8th, and Dwight Gooden batting 9th. And let's get the inside pitch on Frank Viola from the New York Yankees, Dave Winfield.
Frank Viola of the Twins, the top left-hander in the American League, not only in terms of numbers, but the players would agree also. Has a good move to first base, holds runners tight, works the corners, a good fastball. He can come inside or outside, good curve, and the pitch that'll get you out on is that changeup.
And back of Frank Viola defensively for the American League All-Stars. Canseco is normally a right fielder. He plays left. Henderson has been playing left. He moves to center. Winfield stays home in right. He's the senior member out there. Then in the infield, you've got Wade Boggs at third, Cal Ripken starting in place of Trammell at short. Paul Molitor now is a DH and has been a third baseman for years, but he was on the ballot at second, and there he is. And Mark McGwire plays first. Terry Steinbach does the catching. Frank Viola on the mound, and the switch hitting Vince Coleman of the St. Louis Cardinals to lead off. No score in the bottom of the first inning with Coleman, Sandberg, and Dawson. Vince, 275 average and 45 steals, swinging and missing, and the count is 0-1. So Whitey Herzog with his National League champions mired in 5th place, but still represented by 2 starters. And they also have McGee and Worrell here on the bench. Lifted to center. Ricky Henderson used to play there. Makes the catch. 1 away. And Ryan Sandberg will come up. If you're a pitcher and you dream about pitching in big games and you thought about 3 games you could start, wouldn't you think about starting the first game of the World Series, the 7th game of the World Series, and the All-Star game 1, 2, 3, that's exactly what he's done over the past 9 months.
You'd also think about winning them. Now, he hasn't done that yet, but he did win the 1st and the 7th, and I think that was the big game in his career, because he said, used his changeup early, the Cardinals got hit, he went to his fastball and was successful.
Off speed to Sandberg for a strike.
He has 3 great pitches. And Dave Winfield talked about the changeup, but what sets up the changeup is his outstanding fastball and that big curveball you just saw.
Ooh, fooled him again, and the count 0-2.
And as you said, Timmy, when you don't get to see a guy like Viola, you really don't know what to look for. And they may not see him very often, maybe 2 times at the most.
This time a fastball is fouled away. Still 0-2.
Frank is the first pitcher to pitch to start an All-Star game from Minnesota since 1967 when Dean Chance, the right-hander, and the first Minnesota pitcher to appear in an All-Star game since 1973 when Bert Blyleven.
Still 0-2. Well, the Twins have been short shrifted for years, and there is Tom Kelly, the manager. He's brought his coaching staff here. He has 5 Twins, and he could have had a 6th, but Ken Herbeck said last year that he wasn't going to come because he wasn't selected last season. He felt he was slighted. And the Twins making a move again in the West, so they were short-circuited over the weekend by Milwaukee. 1-2 the count on Sandberg.
Well, that's one of the great luxuries as a starting manager. You get to start a guy that's 14-2, well-rested, pitched last Wednesday. So not his regular day, but very much close to it.
That's line foul. Out in front again, so it remains a ball and 2 strikes. The All-Star managers are so designated because their teams won the pennant in the prior season. And there's Whitey Herzog. The National League has only lost 3 games in the last 25 years, but Whitey's had the misfortune to manage the team on 2 of those occasions. 2-2.
And no National League managers ever lost 3 games in the All-Star game. So the heat's on Whitey.
Does he look worried? Doesn't he look concerned there?
2-2 the count. And Sandberg fights it off. So still 2-2. And on deck is Andre Dawson. So Cubs back-to-back, and there are 6 Cubs on the All-Star team.
You know, the amazing thing about starting an All-Star game is invariably it may be the most difficult lineup you will ever face. Certainly was in a lot of my games. At least I perceived it as such.
The good news is you only have to go around once.
That's right.
And down he goes. Viola working in and out, off speed, and an occasional fastball, and strikes him out looking. 2 gone.
Again, we talked about the changeup, but here's the fastball. Right where Terry Steinbach is sitting. And when you hit the glove, more chances or not, you get the pitch. Again, when you set it up, and as an umpire, when you see the pitcher moving in and out and the catcher moving in and out, you make it a lot easier for him.
So 2 gone, bases empty, and Andre Dawson, whose .308 average is the highest among National League starters. 1-0. It's interesting that Dawson would have the best average, and he's only 7th in the league in hitting. So the top 6 are either on the bench or not here. Andres Galarraga leads the league at .338. In there for a strike. 1-1.
As a matter of fact, the extra men on both ball clubs have a better batting average than the starters.
That's popped up and out of play. In a way, that's not that unusual because the fans do the voting for the starters, and a lot of times you vote with your heart. And then after the fans are through, the managers and the league presidents say, okay, give me the stat sheet. Where is that guy hitting .330?
Andres Galarraga, a prime example.
Dawson fouling it away, and still a ball and 2 strikes the count.
Dave Winfield talking on the inside pitch about how Viola likes to come inside. It's interesting that Winfield would say that because Dave likes the ball out over the plate. And the first thing he said about Viola is that he'll come inside.
As he did to strike Sandberg out. And here Dawson pops it up in foul ground. Steinbach comes all the way back and runs out of room. So So still 1 ball and 2 strikes the count, and you saw Frank Pulley, the plate umpire. 6 umpires working this game. With Pulley at the plate, Larry Barnett of the American League at first, Terry Tata, National second. There they are, Dale Ford at third. Randy Morris from the National League down the line in left, and Dan Morrison down the line in right. 1 ball and 2 strikes the count on Dawson. Viola gets him to swing out in front, and it's grounded to third, and Boggs over to McGuire to set him down 1, 2, 3. At the end of 1 in the All-Star game at Cincy, no score. You look down into Riverfront Stadium on the banks of the Ohio from the Goodyear Blimp Enterprise, which hovers above downtown. This stadium sits on the riverbank, the Ohio River, and across the river, the Commonwealth of Kentucky. The All-Star game. He'll remember it forever. Second inning, no score. And here's Dave Winfield to lead off, and he goes after the first pitch and grounds it to Ozzie Smith. Over to Clark for the out. 1 pitch, 1 gone in the second inning. And it will bring up Cal Ripken. Alan Trammell having a sensational season with the Tigers, and he would have been the starting shortstop. Is in uniform, was introduced, hopes to come off the disabled list shortly, but he has that bad contusion on his elbow, and so it's Ripken getting the start.
It's not too shabby a shortstop. Started off horrendously this year along with the Orioles, who lost 21 games to start the season, but as you can see, he's no stranger to all-star games, and for obvious reasons can hit. Good fielder.
And on the bench, and that's where he'll have to stay, is Alan Trammell with that left elbow.
Hit by Todd Stottlemyre. He throws extremely hard.
And then he came back a couple of nights later and hit a grand slam to beat the Yankees, but it acted up again, and he had to go on to DL.
As a matter of fact, the American League has 2 shortstops on the ailing list. Ozzie Guillen of the Chicago White Sox also unable to play.
Also hit by a pitch.
Yeah.
He said, I'm too little to get hit and then play in an all-star game.
2-0 pitch, a strike. It's a real shame when you get named to the team, and there is Guillen representing the White Sox, and I know how terrible Robbie Thompson of the Giants must feel with that pinched nerve. He's had back problems for a long time, and they've acted up, and he can't be here. And his teammate Rick Russell got married during the All-Star break, so he's not here either. Ozzie Smith over to Clark for the out. So Winfield and Ripken both ground to short. 2 gone. Base is empty. Second inning in a scoreless game as Mark McGuire comes up. McGuire, the rookie, splashed last year with the Oakland A's with 49 home runs. Streaky kind of year for him here, and they'll need him to get hot in the second half as the Twins and the Royals try to nip away at the A's lead. In for a strike, 0-1.
He had 20 first pitch home runs last year out of those 49 home runs, so the pitchers have definitely adjusted. There's some talk in the American League of what they've tried to do, and he was beamed earlier in the year. They have tried to throw inside and then have tried to establish the outside part of the plate, and he's had some problems with that.
Fouled away.
That was an inside fastball right there. And this is a game that certainly illustrates why you have to pitch power hitters inside. Almost all power hitters like to extend their arms. Gooden ties up McGuire. Canseco the same way, I understand. And Strawberry certainly like that. Andre Dawson like that. The problem is when you miss inside, your mistake is a home run. You miss away, it's a single.
Gooden couldn't figure out where he missed with that last pitch. It's 2-2. And now it's 3-2 on McGuire.
Well, Dwight has the luxury, and we've seen him in the first week. He got Winfield out with a curveball. He got Ripken out with a fastball. He throws so hard, it's tough to catch up.
Throws him a breaking pitch. And down goes McGuire. And at the end of 1.5, no score. Was it Yogi or somebody who came up with that? But there's deep depth. Kirby Puckett, a bench warmer, at least at the start. Darryl Strawberry to lead off in the bottom of the second inning, leading the National League in home runs, and 11 of those 21 have come against left-handers. 1-1, so he'll dig in against Viola to be followed by Bonilla and Clark.
he's on a 2 for 26 streak, so he hasn't been hitting very well, and I think a lot of that reason is Keith Hernandez is not in the lineup. Pitching right around him and inside to him. Of course, that is the weakness, I suppose. This year he's had such an outstanding year. If you do not get the ball up and in or down and away, he's going to have a home run swing as you take a look at a ball that he just barely nicks up and in as Viola runs it there.
And he grounds it down to second, and that's Molitor back in his old position, throwing out Strawberry. Bobby Bonilla coming up, and Bonilla's story a most interesting one. Growing up in the South Bronx, and originally signed by the Pirates, and there was Bobby at the age of 10 and sent over to the White Sox, and then Sid Thrift got him back. He came back to Pittsburgh, and he's done a tremendous job for the Pirates this year. He grounds the first pitch down to Ripken, who throws him out, and Frank Viola has set down 5 straight. So 2 gone quickly in the second inning, and it will bring up Will Clark. Speaking of deep depth, is George Brett on that bench?
Let's see, we saw Puckett 350, Brett sitting 330. I mean, boy, this is a great team to manage. And they can play defense. And I think that is one thing that the American League, as you said, Al's lost 22 out of the last 25. They have tried to come up with a ball club, as you see a high fastball right by Will Clark, that can contend with the National League speed late in the ball game.
Clark, the Giants' first baseman, taking high. And for Will, what a tremendous thrill, and that is his nickname, Will the Thrill. But what a thrill to be on a National League All-Star team with your college teammate, Rafael Palmeiro. They hit 3 and 4 for the Bulldogs for 3 years.
The number 5 hitter in that lineup, Bobby Thigpen, who was an outfielder, and now he has 18 saves for the Chicago White Sox.
Murderer's row in Starkville. The 1-2 pitch is fouled away. So 2 out, bases empty. No score, bottom of the second inning.
Will and Rafi were telling me before the game that it was thunder, lightning, and rain for Bobby Thigpen.
It's looped down the line in left field, curling and just going foul. So still 1 ball and 2 strikes. With 2 out and the bases empty, bottom of the second inning. Clark coming back, and Gary Carter on deck.
You talk about a hitter who combines power and contact. I don't think anybody in baseball has a prettier swing than Will Clark.
Well, that's why I asked you about Stan Musial. You played against them. Boy, I mean, I've seen some old reels of Stan. Look very much alike. When he hits the ball, it is beautiful. I mean, great extension. You didn't see it on that swing before because the ball was up and in, but when he gets the bat head out, and he hit 35 home runs last year.
There, of course, is so much more to hitting than beautiful swings. I think of a Giant first baseman in the 70s by the name of Ed Goodson. Not a bad player, but not all-star caliber. That same gorgeous swing. And there's Gary Carter waiting on deck. But so many things go into the difference between a 300 hitter and a 250 hitter.
Strength and balance are 2.
That's hit on a hop and backhanded. Speared nicely by Ripken, who throws him out. And Frank Viola has set down 6 straight. We go to the 3rd with no score, back in Cincinnati after this word from your local station. All-Star game. Look at that shot. That's the Riverfront Coliseum, the indoor arena on the left, and the freeways which go by the stadium, the Ohio River, the bridges into Kentucky, and underneath the blimp, downtown Cincinnati. There's a drive into right field. It backs Strawberry all the way back, and it's out of his glove and over the wall for a home run. Terry Steinbach, the all-star, who a lot of people said should not be here, hits a home run. Doesn't it figure?
Well, number 6 on the year, something that does not happen very often off Doc Gooden. He doesn't really catch up, but he likes the ball away, as you see the jubilation. 16 last year, 6 this year, but he did fracture his orbital bone earlier in the year. Take another look at it. And he got his hands in. You can see how strong he is. 6'5", Darryl Strawberry almost catches it. Looks like he almost gets it on the rebound.
Tipped his glove off the top of the fence, and now Gary Gaetti bats for his teammate Viola. So Steinbach, and a lot of people felt he shouldn't be here. They thought there was some ballot box rigging in Oakland, and they punched out his name in an unfair manner. But on the other side is the fact that in the American League, there really isn't an outstanding catcher. As Gaetti swings and misses, and so he gets the call, and Laudner is the backup. Carlton Fisk has been hurt most of the year. And Steinbach, who said, hey, man, I'm just happy to be here. I thank the fans. And he thanks them again. No balls, 2 strikes. And it's 1-2.
And you also saw in the dugout the unusual style of congratulations that has become a trademark of the Oakland Athletics.
Gooden takes the one hopper, takes care of Gaetti. Gary gone, and Henderson is the batter.
You can't help but see a play like this and think of Dave Henderson in the 1986. You and Jim were there. Game 5, actually, of the American League Championship Series.
In center
when
field.
Henderson had 2 2-run homers.
Right.
One that he hit with his bat, the other he hit with his glove.
That he dropped.
And here's the elbow bashing we were talking about. It's dangerous to shake hands on that ball club.
Hey, can you imagine if Kirk Gibson played with the A's? The whole team would be in surgery. 1-0 on Ricky Henderson, who drew a walk in the first inning. That's grounded to the hole and a base hit. So Henderson gets on for the second time. Remember, in the first inning he walked. He stayed put on the first pitch. Had a tremendous jump on the second on the foul ball, and then stayed put and was the front end of a double play on the third. And there's Steinbach. Last man to do it, Lee Mazzillion, 79 at the Kingdome in Seattle. A home run in his first All-Star game at bat.
He may be maligned because he's here, but he had a solid year. I mean, a guy that was converted from a third baseman to a catcher made the transition very well. Thrown out 48% of all runners trying to steal this year. So he's, as I said, been hurt, but now, of course, it's Gooden and Carter trying to throw out Henderson.
Ricky with his 42 steals, and again, he has missed a lot of time.
You know, I was talking to him about that, Al, and he said, you know, with Billy Martin managing early, he said a little more aggressive style, and that's why he sprained both ankles. Not to blame it on Billy, but just the aggressive style of playing.
Wide of third, short hop by Bonilla to second, and they force Henderson for the second out. So Bobby Bonilla ranging to his left. You know Bonilla can hit. The question a couple of years ago was, where do you play him? And he's found a home at third in Pittsburgh.
Well, he played the outfield. We know he can play first base, but then again, he's a good athlete. Switch hitter, just smothers it, knows he has to get the lead runner and does that. It's interesting that Molitor has not taken pitches either time up, but then again, he's not hitting an accustomed second spot. Ball with 26 steals, only been thrown out 3 times, so I think most people think of Paul Molitor 39-game hitting streak, but he can do a lot of things: home runs, high batting average, and steal bases.
And so versatile. And again, he's a former second baseman, now a DH basically. And why not? In the year of the balk in the All-Star game, you've got to have a balk. I mean, you knew it was coming. It wouldn't be fair to go through this one without a balk.
Dwight Gooden had a look at Frank Pulley, and it's kind of the same look Whitey has, as if to say, I didn't think you'd be calling the All-Star game. It's got to be a discernible stop, and they have been calling it all year. And to be honest with you, I didn't think they would be as tough in the All-Star game on the balk situation.
I
But
didn't
as you
either.
say, why not?
Well, I figured that this is a microcosm of the season. We mentioned at the Open, the All-Star game reflects so many things about the year, so it's really appropriate. We'll have a balk tonight and then a suspension. It'll be right in tune.
What's interesting when you see Whitey Herzog smiling is a lot of people think because Bert Blyleven in last year's World Series did not have that discernible stop, Whitey got the Major League Rules Committee to make this rule. So maybe that's why he had that chagrin look on his face.
That's a line drive caught by Sandberg. Timed it perfectly off the bat of Box, who was bidding for his second hit. Steinbach's home run makes it 1-0 Americans after 2.
Well, that's how you win 5 consecutive Gold Gloves. great range, jumping ability. Of course, that's also how you usually get 200 base hits. You stay with that low curveball and hit it right on the nose. But Sandberg saves the second run. As you look at Roger Clemens, you could throw also 6 shutouts in there. He has doubled Paul Kilgus down with Texas Ranger, who has 3. Viola with 2.
So Clemens working in the 3rd inning on Gary Carter after Frank Viola works 2 perfect innings. Clemens comes out of the pen to face the bottom of the order. Carter, Smith, and then the pitcher's spot. We'll see what Herzog does as Carter swings and misses. Gooden has gone his 3. That's as far as he can go. So Whitey will hit for good. There's no question about that. And we'll find out who it will be. And it appears to be Gerald Perry in the foreground there, lower right, bat in hand.
Roger Clemens pitched last Saturday night, 15 strikeouts and a no decision.
Against the White Sox.
He is, as a matter of fact, Clemens, one of the American League pitchers that's not rested. That's an interesting stat right there. 19 plate appearances.
And he really shines in the All-Star games. Gary is the 2-time MVP, 81 and 84. He's taken the trophy home.
One of 6 players to hit 2 home runs in a game back in 1981 at Cleveland after the 2-month strike by Major League Baseball players.
2-2 pitch is fouled away. People forget that's the last time the All-Star game was held in the state of Ohio, and it was delayed and postponed. And then finally they began the second half of the season with that Sunday night All-Star game at Cleveland.
And the state of Ohio holding the most All-Star games. They've held 8. California and New York with 7 apiece. That's unusual.
2 tradition-rich franchises. Popped up. And Molitor is there for the catch. 1 away, and Gary Bender has Frank Viola with him. Gary.
Well, Frank, the 7th game of the World Series, starting the All-Star game. How'd you feel about those 2? Compare them.
It's been a heck of a year. You know, the World Series, I don't think you can top because we weren't expected to do anything, and we did it as a team, not expected to go anywhere, and that was a great achievement in itself, but you can't take anything away from this All-Star game. It's a showcase, and I was fortunate enough to have the chance to go out there and show it.
Perfect 2 innings. Steinbach, you shook him off about 3 times that first inning.
Well, he's calling the game as though he's hitting against me, and he's hitting lifetime 400 against me, so I couldn't let him do that. But, you know, I just know what I want to go with in certain situations, and Terry got the hang of it after the first inning.
You've got the hang of it, too. Thanks, Frank.
Thank you, Gary.
Back up to Al.
All right, Gary, thank you. As Ozzie Smith takes inside, 1 ball and 1 strike with 1 out of the bases empty. The National League looking for his first base runner. Ozzie with decent numbers. Thing about Smith, it's funny, and Ozzie's the leading vote getter, and well, he should be. He's been a tremendous shortstop for years, but surprisingly, he's made more errors already this year than he did all of last season.
Of course, one reason possibly for that is Tommy Herr is not playing there in defense of Ozzie. Not that he needs a lot of defense, because he is, I mean, a peerless shortstop. When you think of Roger Clemens at 97 miles per hour, I guess that's what only happens after 2 days of rest. And Ozzie does not strike out very often. One of his strengths is he runs the radar gun up to 98 miles per hour.
He doesn't face Roger Clemens.
No, he doesn't. Well, there aren't too many Roger Clemens, not that I can recall, in history, past history, or in the present tense. Of course, you go back to 1986, he retired 9 in a row down in Houston. Only 2 days of rest.
Now Gerald Perry of the Atlanta Braves, the sole representative from Atlanta, takes a strike. 0-1. Perry making a bid for the batting title, just came off the disabled list, and at the All-Star break, he's 1 point behind Andres Galarraga. And Clemens quickly out in front, 0-2.
Well, he struck out 186 on 159 innings this year and only walked 28. So you get an idea, not only does he have the 98 mile per hour fastball, 3 other pitches to go with it, and pinpoint control.
And the 0-2 pitch fouled away. That was best typified, of course, by the night in which he struck out 20 Seattle Mariners 2 years ago, and that incredible figure under BB for bases on balls. None. No walks, 20 strikeouts.
9 innings, 4 hits, 0, 0, 0, 20.
To left field. And it's Canseco who plays right in Oakland, but he has given way to Winfield tonight. And at the end of 3, it's still American League 1, National Cincinnati, in the heart of bluegrass country. And a guest Commissioner Uberoth tonight looking on at the 59th All-Star game as we proceed to the 4th. And Bob Knepper does the pitching for the National League, and he starts Jose Canseco with a strike. You think those two guys know a little bit about hitting? Brett and Mattingly. And behind them, Mike Greenwell was trying to eavesdrop.
Yeah. He only has 71 RBIs, right? He needs to learn a lot. Right. Oh. Of course, they'd like to miss this guy because he is tough on left-handers. Bob Knepper won his 12th game on, won his 9th game on Friday night.
He beat Dwight Gooden, as a matter of fact, at the Dome down in Houston. The National League does not have a rested starting staff.
And only 2 relievers.
Right.
1-2 to Canseco, and that's a real good point because by rights, Greg Maddux of the Chicago Cubs, and we have to mention him, is the winningest pitcher in the big leagues with 15, and by rights he should have started, but he pitched a complete game against San Diego Sunday and doesn't figure to pitch tonight. High towering fly ball to left field, and Vince Coleman puts it away. Canseco gone, 1 out. Winfield coming up, and let's go down to Joe Morgan, who was with Dwight Gooden.
Thank you, Al. Dwight, this is your 2nd All-Star start. I don't think the American League has seen the real Dwight Gooden yet.
I don't think so. It was fun out there tonight, Joe, but couldn't really get the rhythm going the way I like, but hopefully I'll be back again.
Your lead is down to 3.5. Are the Mets concerned?
We're not really concerned. We got swept in Houston, but that's okay, and the break came right at the right time, and hopefully we could pick up the second half and start off fresh.
Right. Back to you, Al.
Okay, Joe, as Knepper works with 1 out on Dave Winfield, taking outside. 1-0 Winfield with a mark close at hand. 6-game hitting streak. Mickey Mantle and Joe Morgan hold the record, 7. And think about it, it's tough to have an all-star game hitting streak going. Number 1, you got to be on the team. Number 2, you have to be in the lineup or at least pinch hit. And then you have to get enough at-bats to keep the thing going. 1-0 pitch, and he's in the book with Mantle and Morgan, and he'll be in with a double as Winfield rounds first and pulls into second. So Dave Winfield having the year of his career with a double to the gap in the All-Star game with 1 out in the 4th inning.
From the Baltimore Orioles, shortstop, Cal Ripken.
Well, the 7th double, also a record. 7 doubles now for Dave, and we mentioned earlier that he loves to extend his arms, and he showed you there why.
Well, a normal guy, you usually get to that ball, but he hit it so hard it gets right up the gap. And you can see Bob Knepper, he knows he did not get the ball down in a way where he wanted it. Resulted 2-base hit.
So Winfield joining some illustrious company with a 7-game All-Star game hitting streak, 1 out, and Ripken takes outside. Ball 1. Ripken grounded out in the 2nd inning.
You see 2 for 13. Cal, very much a hitter like Dave Winfield. Likes to get his arms extended. A little bit better breaking ball hitter. Especially maybe the 2nd or 3rd time around. A luxury he doesn't have tonight.
2-0 the count. Bob Knepper, coming off a terrible season in '87, has turned it completely around. And of course, he got that reaction before the game. He was quoted before the season as saying he didn't think a woman's place was behind the plate as an umpire. And then he got into more hot water with the national organization.